Welcome to Mr. G's Segment 2, Driver's Education class. In order to be eligible for this class, a student must have had a valid Level 1 license for a minimum of 3 consecutive months, no exceptions. If you don't have the 3 months, you'll have to retake this class. So it's important that we verify that you have the right amount of time in. So basically what you're going to have to show me is your Level 1 license. And basically, I'm looking up here to the top for these numbers that tells me when you received your segment 1. See, those numbers represent this person received their segment 1 on April 27th, 2015. So I need to see this um, before you can complete this class. You must also have completed a minimum of 30 hours of driving time with a parent, legal guardian, or with the permission of a parent or legal guardian. Any licensed driver who is 21 years old. 2 of those 30 hours must be at nighttime. I also need to verify this by looking at your logbooks. You can either have written copies of it, or you could be using the apps that they told you about when you got your license. Basically, we're going to have 3 days of classroom, 6 hours. This being a virtual class, we're going to go 3 virtual classes, and then the last class we'll take the test and we'll do a review and follow up. You must pass a 20-question test of at least 70% or better. So what is next? What do I do with the white certificate? When you're finished this class, you're going to receive a white certificate. Very similar to your green one you received in segment 1. This white certificate does one thing only. It tells the road tester you're ready to take the road test. Because the next step after this class is you must take the road test. Now, what do you need to do before you receive segment 2 certificate from me? Well, you're going to have to receive this paperwork, and we'll probably do that when we meet each other at our in-person class. You're also going to take a 20-question test with a 70% or higher, and you must attend 6 hours. We're actually going to have 4 classes in here because we'll meet 4 times to get our 6 hours total. Now, this form here kind of lays out your driver's ed, where you've been. In this first part here, this was segment 1. And it says, how old you got to be in segment 1 to get your level. Everybody has a level 1 license. If you notice on the bottom, you must have your level 1 license for at least 6 months before you can take the road test. So you don't have to be 16 to take the road test. It is possible if you got your license at 14.9, if you're really young, you could take your road test at 15 in 3 months. But you can't get your license until you're 16. So we're basically right here. This is what I talked about. 30 hours of classroom, or excuse me, 30 hours of driving behind the wheel, 6 hours of classroom, written exam, and so on, because you're preparing to take the road test. And basically, to take the road test, you must complete all your 50 hours, 10 of which must be at nighttime. You'll have to have your level 1 for 6 months, and you'll take the road test. After the road test, when you're at least 16, you have to be 16. You have 90 days of crash and violation free. You can get your level 2 license. Now, level 2 license, there are some restrictions. Um, you cannot drive past 10 o'clock, from 10 to 5 in the morning, and you can't have more than one other person in the car with you that's not family. Now, there are some exceptions. Authorized activities such as school sanctioned events, sporting events, a class program, an event or activity sponsored by a religious group, or transporting an individual in need of immediate emergency care to the hospital. Those are only exceptions to authorized use during those 10 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning. And then when you're 17 and you've had your level 2 for 6 months and you've been 12 months crash free, you can get your license, which is unrestricted level 3. So there's basically 3 licenses we're dealing with. You have your level 1. Even though you don't call it a license, you refer to it as your driving permit, but it's a license. You're here today to get your level 2 license that you're going to have for 6 months before you get your I can do anything I want license, which is level 3. All right, what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you some time here to think about, take 2 minutes and just go through these 6 questions. Obviously, we can't be in groups right now, so just take 2 minutes to go through these questions and answer in your head, and we'll go through them together. Okay, so let's talk about what's happened the last 90 plus days of your driving. Has anybody gotten any accidents? Hopefully not, because remember, you have to be 90 days accident free to take this class. Hopefully, nobody had any garbage cans, mailboxes, bushes all count. If anybody's got any good stories, I'd love to hear all about them. By close calls. Now, here's a video. Watch the light here is red. Pay attention to this area right here, and you're going to see a very close call. This is almost too close to even be possible. Look at that. We'll watch that one more time. You can see pretty crazy. So, hopefully no one's had any close calls like that, because like I said, that's a 1 in a million. I don't know how that was even possible. Anyone stopped by the police? Hope no one's got any stories about that, because that would be a problem. But usually, I'm sure if something happened, you're with your parents driving, then maybe it would be a learning experience, and I'm not sure you would get a ticket, but never say never. What's the craziest thing you've seen driving through? Nice, relaxed. Anybody see anything crazy like? Now that really works better if it's live. I'm sure there was a delay with the sound, but if I did scare you, let me know. If it's still a little scary, but hopefully, again, this is a part that would have been really fun to be live and to talk about some of the craziest thing you've seen. So in general, hopefully your driving's been going well. The next step that we're going to talk about, and we'll talk about this when we get together and when we meet with each other in person about how and where to schedule a road test. You're going to want to do that as soon as possible. You can go on my website under resources and see some links to help you find a road tester. Because does anybody know anybody that's failed the third party road tester? I'm sure you have. It's about a 17% failure rate, and there's a lot of reasons why. And we'll talk about that too when we go through our last class, how to help you, because it's $60, $70 every time.
Okay, we're going to talk about some segment 2 risk awareness. This is some statistics the state wants us to go over, and you will see it, some of these questions on the test. First of all, why should young drivers be concerned? Young drivers must be aware of the risks they take while driving. Risk is the chance of death, injury, damage, or loss. Approximately 1 out of 11 16-year-old drivers will have a serious crash before their 17th birthday, which is about 9%. And 1 out of 8, or 11%, of the young drivers will be involved in a crash during the first 3 years of driving. For 16 to 17-year-old drivers, the risk of crash involvement is at a lifetime high during the first 6 months of unsupervised driving. Due to the lack of driving experience, the largest category of error in young driving fatal crashing is speed. Speed kills, and you drive too fast. Think about this statistic. For every 2 miles driven, the average driver makes 200 observations, 40 decisions, and 1 mistake. Once every 500 miles, one of those decisions lead to a near collision. When do crashes occur for young drivers? So, these are some questions. See if you can get as many as you can right. So if you had to say daytime or nighttime, what would you think? This one is kind of tough because it's kind of right in the middle, but actually 51% of all young driving fatal crashes occur in daylight. What time of day? If you had to come up with a range of a couple hours, what range would you come up with? And the answer is 2 to 5. The most dangerous time of day for young driving fatal crashes is a 3-hour period after school. Why is the after school time period the most dangerous for young driving fatal crashes? Well, my opinion is it's kind of like the caged animal syndrome. You're locked up during school, you can't do anything you want. You're told when to go to the next class. You're kind of confined in a cage. And just like that animal, if you open up that cage door, what's it going to do? It's going to jump out and go crazy. Well, at the end of the day, students want to go. It's kind of like the rush hour for students. So, how do you reduce your risk when driving after school? Well, take your time, don't rush, be cautious, and this is a good advice for any large group dismissing at the same time, is let them go. Wait 5 or 10 minutes, and the congestion will be gone, and you'll have an easier time of leaving. Why is 9 p.m. to midnight another dangerous time period for young drivers? Well, people go out, and it's evening, you know, people might make bad choices in the evening. And how do you reduce your risk when driving during this time? Well, first of all, nighttime, you can always drive a little slower. Don't overdrive your headlights, and make sure you don't put yourself in a position to make bad choices um, to put you in a position to get in a crash. When do crashes occur? What days of the week? So you had to think of a 2-day range. What would you pick? And the survey says 33% of young driver fatal crashes occur on Friday and Saturday, which is common sense. It's the day that you probably are more prone to do something, go out, you're not in school. It's the weekend. What months? Now, this used to be easy to remember because it was common sense. The old answer was June, July, and August, which you think, okay, summer months. But after looking at the last set of data, they changed this, and it is not June, July, and August anymore. It is May and October. I have no clue why it's May and October. My guess would be October is the first time we start to see the weather change. Maybe deer are more active in Michigan. In May, the start of summer, getting out of school. Again, I have no clue why May and October, but those are the two highest number of deaths in the state of Michigan. Where do driving crashes occur? What type of roads? Well, think about what type of road you mostly drive on, and that is country roads. 66, 76% of young driving fatal crashes occur on county roads. And why are young driver fatal crashes on country roads so high? Well, like I said, you for the most part travel mostly on back roads, country roads, and sometimes when there's a lack of cars on the road, there's not as many police officers, there's no stoplights, there's no reduced speeds, it's pretty much 55. The roads aren't as taken care of as maybe the main roads and around urban areas. So those are all reasons that will contribute to the higher likelihood of getting a crash. How do you reduce your risk? Well, like anything, drive slower, be careful, be cautious, make sure you are searching, evaluating for potential risk, and executing. What are the speed limits? Well, if you remember country roads, this will help you because all country roads, well, for the most part, country roads are what? 55 or less. So 97% of all young driving fatal crashes occur on roadways with speed limits of 55 or less. What type of traffic controls? Again, if you think about country roads, that will help you answer this question. 69% of young driving fatal crashes occur on sections of roadway where no traffic control devices are in effect. So it's not at an intersection. It's not because they missed a stoplight or a stop sign. 69% of the time, it's on a straight part of the road without traffic controls. So something to think about for young drivers, fatal crashes occur. 97%, 55 or less. 76% on rural roads. 69% on sections of road where no traffic control devices are in effect. 53% while driving on straight roads. 20% of the time at stop signs. 14% on roadways with speeds limit of 35 or less. And 11% on roadways where traffic control devices are in effect. What sections of road do you consider most dangerous in areas where you typically drive? Now, unfortunately, this is virtual, so we can't have a discussion about this. But normally in class, we would talk about what's a road by your house, and we would describe it. So in your head, you can kind of think about that. And then I would say, well, what can you do to reduce the risk? So I don't know what you're going to say for number one because this isn't a traditional class setting, but I can tell you what number two is going to be because number two answers all questions in number one. And the answer to number two would be drive slow, be careful, make sure you look, make sure you're searching properly, make sure you give yourself extra time, extra space in front of your car. And those are the generic answers for any situation to reduce your risk. Young drivers and passengers. This is why for your segment 2, your level 2 license, you can only drive with one passenger unless they're family because statistics show a 16 and 17-year-old driver risk of being killed in a crash increases when there are young passengers in the vehicle. It increases by 44% when one passenger is present. It doubles to 88% when two passengers are present. And it quadruples to 132% when three or more passengers are present. That is why our lawmakers do not allow you to drive with more than one person outside your family, because it saves lives. How do you reduce distractions while driving when you have peer passengers in your vehicle? Well, you have to take charge. You're the boss. You have to set rules, guidelines, and not put yourself in a position to be distracted upon, like you can see in the bottom here. You can't have a party in the car because it's going to distract you. It's going to cause problems. How do you reduce your risk when you are a passenger? Well, be a good co-pilot. Make sure you can help with simple controls as the radio, telling people to settle down, not disturbing them, not trying to talk to them at critical times in the drive. We all know what it takes to be a good co-pilot. Here's a statistics that's kind of interesting. The driver dies in approximately 1/3 of all fatal crashes involving novice drivers. But in fatal crashes involving young drivers, 2/3 of those killed are other passengers, drivers, bicycles, or pedestrians, while occupants in the young driver's vehicle accounting for 46% of the fatalities. Not sure why that's the case. I don't know if the driver has a survival mode that you just subconsciously protect yourself, but it's kind of interesting that 1/3 of the time it's the driver and 2/3 of the time it's other people that die in a fatal crash involving novice drivers. So, hypothetical question, you're driving two friends home from school. Everyone is buckled up as you requested. As you drive, the friend in the back seat unbuckles their seatbelt and reaches across the front seat to turn up the radio. The friend in the front turns around and starts tossing books into the back seat. What do you do? Well, like I said earlier, you're the boss. And obviously, you must deal with these distractions as soon as it's safe to do so. Do not take away, don't be distracted by these though. Make sure you're driving. If you need to pull over. But the most important thing you're doing is driving the car. Don't let these distractions affect your driving. And think about what are some rules and limitations you'll create when driving with other passengers. Again, it's your car, it's your rules. You are in charge of making sure that you are safe when driving. What type of vehicles are young drivers driving? Over half of drivers are not driving the types of vehicles recommended for them. The recommended vehicles are a mid-size to large passenger car, and the reason is because they have large crumble zones. In fatal crashes involving young drivers, of the vehicles driven, 50% are 10 years or older, and 82% are 6 years or older. Again, that's common sense. No, most of us are not going to get brand new cars. We're going to be driving old cars or cars given to us by their parents that they don't want anymore. Your friend has just bought a new car and wants to take you for a ride. He or she is driving through the neighborhood at 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. What would you do? Well, I'm not sure what you would do, but I'm going to tell you what you should do. It is tell them, slow down, don't be a knucklehead. If you get a ticket going 20 miles over, that's reckless driving, 4 points, and will severely hurt your driving record. And it's very dangerous. Second one, when researching your vehicle's crashworthiness, what safety features are you looking for? Well, they're all rated. So I believe 5 stars. Most cars that you sell today are pretty well uh, scored with safety features, meaning they're usually 4 to 5 stars, most cars. But you're looking for crumble zones, um, side impacts, how do they handle on rollovers and things like that. What measures can you do to take to safely drive an older vehicle? Well, maintain the vehicle, make sure the tires are well kept, keep the oil, make sure it's safe. You just have to keep an eye on older cars to make sure they're running properly. Something interesting. Teenage vehicle owners are likely to drive more miles, take more risks, receive more traffic violations, be involved in more crashes than those who do not own a vehicle and drive their parents. That's kind of shocking. I was really surprised to see that. I would assume if you owned a car, you'd be more responsible, but maybe I guess the thought process is you're not driving your car, it's your parents, so you have to be responsible, otherwise they'll kill you. According to the Insurance for Highway Safety, before purchasing a vehicle, you should research the vehicle's crashworthiness. Little statistics here involved in single vehicle car crashes. Young versus all drivers, head on. And you can see some of the statistics about vehicle crashes. What are the road and weather conditions when fatal crashes occur? What type of weather conditions? Well, 81% of young driver fatal crashes occur during fair weather conditions. 72% of young driver fatal crashes occur on a dry road surface. So if you look at this, 81% of the time is fair weather, 72% was on a dry road surface, 16% was wet roads, 10% was the rain, 7% in the snow, 4% is icy, and 2% is fog. Which is shocking here, as most people probably would not assume that 81% of the time it is fair weather conditions. What are some other factors contribute to young driver fatal crashes? Gender, male or female? Well, statistically, 64% of young drivers involved in fatal crashes were male drivers, while 36% were female drivers. Not sure why this is the case. My assumption would be that male drivers might be more aggressive. I know females' brains develop sooner than a male's brain, so maybe maturity levels are higher than females. But statistically, statistics don't lie. 64% of the time, they're male drivers. Wearing seatbelts, yes or no? In Michigan, 13% of all young drivers involved in fatal crashes were not using a safety belt. So, majority of fatal crashes, they are wearing seatbelts. And why are 13% of young drivers involved in fatal crashes not wearing their safety belts? I'm not sure why people don't wear their safety belts, but maybe they think they're uncomfortable. It's not going to matter. They're not going to get in an accident. But it's important that you wear your safety belts. Was alcohol the reason? This is a question you can ask your parents. They'll probably get this one wrong. If you said to your parents, what percentage of teenage driving accidents involved alcohol, they would probably say 40, 50, 60%. They would assume it's a very high number, but it's not. Only 6% of all young drivers involved in fatal crashes had been drinking alcohol, as compared to 17% for all their drivers. Why are fewer alcohol related crashes? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, we work really hard on, don't drink and drive. It's against the law. People really work hard on that. But another reason, I think it's not easy just to drink and drive. It takes some premeditation. You must first find alcohol, which is not easy if you're underage. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a little bit harder than someone who's over 21. You must consume the alcohol, then you must make the choice to drive. There's a lot of steps that take place before you are going to drink and drive. So you're riding home from a party with a friend who agreed to be the designated driver. Another friend in the car asked the driver how many beers they had, and the driver answered, I only had two. I know when to stop. What should you do? Well, first of all, you should never enter a car with anybody who's been drinking. If you discover someone was drinking and you have not been drinking, you should either A, convince them to pull over and let you drive, or B, if safe to do so, find another way home. After one beer, a person's ability to drive can be affected. It's very important that you don't ever get in a car with somebody who's been drinking. Young drivers involved in fatal crashes, a little quick review. 13% were not using safety belts, 6% were drinking, 36% were female drivers, 64% were male drivers. Let's talk about cell phones. 5 seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting. When traveling at 55 miles per hour, that's enough time to cover the length of a football field blindfolded. Drivers using a cell phone are 4 times more likely to crash regardless of whether it's hands-free. So 4 times or 400 more times. 400% is what it said we're going to see in the presentation later on. and they'll be on the test, but it's 4 times more likely. Reading a text message or texting is even more impaired than talking on a cell phone. This is called driving while intoxicated. Cell phone use impairs a driver's ability to handle the changing driving environment, similar to a driver with a .08 blood alcohol content. Distractions are compounded by inexperience. A panic reaction or overreaction is more likely. Also, something to think about, young drivers' brains may not fully be developed until the age of 25. And females develops quicker than males. I think it's females might be 24 and males might be closer to 26, but on average, it's 25 is when the brain is fully developed. When you are driving, when you have a conversation or you listen to the radio, your actual brain power is decreased by 40%. That's why if you ever notice when you're driving, sometimes you might miss something or you might make a mistake because you're having a conversation or maybe you're listening to the radio. Okay, that's the end of this part.